What's up, all you fanatics of the campus gridiron? Glad you could join us for another edition of Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Whether it's the touchdowns on and off the campus or the extra points during the recruiting wars, let's start gabbing. Welcome back, all you campus gabbers out there. Thank you for joining us. I am Mr. CeeLo, here for another edition of Gridiron Gab Triple Option. And this is the Texas Defeats Alabama show. As you guys recall, I did a show earlier about how Texas can beat Alabama. And one of the things that I talked about, of course, I'm not sitting here taking credit for it because I did pick Alabama, even though it was in a close game. This was a 10-point game, which I thought ultimately Alabama was about to take the game away when they got ahead for the first time. I thought that was going to do it. But let's look at the tail of the tape. We look here, Texas had 5 more first downs, and they converted 7 of 18 on third down. And probably the most impressive thing that I had in these stats was the fact that the Texas Longhorns were able to control the possession 32-31 to 27-29. That is very impressive. The thing that you look at is a Nick Saban team has 10 penalties for 90 yards. Let's look at the rushing. Neither team really was willing to budge an inch, but when Texas needed it, they got a big third down run where it looked like Texas was expecting pass, and they gashed them right up the middle to get that very, very key first down that pretty much all but sealed the game. And looking at one of the more impressive things, guys, Texas scored 21 points in the fourth quarter. That rarely happens to Alabama. I'd have to look up the stats and see when was the last time Alabama gave up 21 points in a fourth quarter. That's been a while. But it ended up being 21-18 after that. And it looked like the momentum had shifted when the Crimson Tide had scored 10 points in the third quarter and shut out the Longhorns in the third quarter. But what really impressed me, people are going to say Quinn Ewell was the guy. He threw the balls, but I'm going to tell you, these receivers were great. Because 2 of the balls he threw, these guys had to catch it over the shoulder. And if you guys watch it, the ball should have been more towards the post. I was telling one of my partners when we were watching the game, I was like, he's lucky. He threw the ball this way and the defender's over here. It's like, bro, you're supposed to throw the ball to the post so he can run away from that defender and be still keeping his trajectory away from the defender. He had to go from being here to straighten up. Anyhow, he got the job done, but a lot of the credit does not need to go to him. It needs to go to his receivers because these guys made some tough over-the-shoulder catches. O'Donnell Mitchell was great, and Xavier Worthy was even better. These 2 guys between them had 3 receptions, 78 yards. Mitchell had 2 scores. And Xavier Worthy had 5 catches for 75 and a touchdown. One was the 44-yarder. Texas has some good receivers. They really do. Jatavian Sanders had 5 catches and was over 100 yards, 114 to be exact, and had a 50-yarder. I think what surprised me was that the Ewers was able to get it down the field the way he did. He hung it up there. I give him that. Which a lot of quarterbacks have a hard time getting. You get the ball up enough so these receivers can go run under it. Russell Wilson is the guy in the NFL everybody talks to when they talk about dropping it in a bucket. He dropped it in a bucket, but he made it hard for his receivers because if you look at these catches, these are not easy catches to make. So, shout out to O'Donnell Mitchell and Xavier Worthy for those really tough grabs that they made for touchdowns. and they had one. Their running back, I'm pretty sure Sarkisian's going to eat him up because he had a wheel route earlier in the game that should have been 6. He just dropped it. And me and my partner were talking about it. I said, this may come back to hurt him. And I said, as soon as they got behind, that might have been the difference in the game. But all in all, I mean, let's look at, I would say Texas held their own because they did not give up. And this is not just about Quinn Ewell, because I don't think it was about him. I think it was more along the lines about how well they protected. Because you don't see a single sack by a Crimson Tide defense. This is a Nick Saban defense. You don't see, and here's the other thing, you don't see a single turnover. Wow. You don't see that out of a Nick Saban defense. They protected the football exceptionally well, and that's how you beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. And you control the line of scrimmage the best way you can. Now, what I'm saying to a lot of people is that you're looking at 2 turnovers to 0 for the Texas Longhorns. That's how you win games. You get the time of possession and you get the turnover. You win the turnover battle. Those are the 2 ways you can win the game. But then we look here. 24-38 for Quinn Ewers. 349 yards. Listen, I heard Kirk Herbstreit say it. If those safeties are playing in the middle of the field, you have to be able to attack it. And what happens is, you get a quarterback and you get the guys that are capable of going up the field and being able to go around that defense and beat them over the top. Ewers throws a good ball, but he's got to learn, get that ball further inside. Once you look he does a great job looking off the safety, but he's got to get it to the inside. Make that job for that wide receiver easier. Those over-the-shoulder catches looking this way and your body's going this way, you're going back this way trying to make a grab. That's not easy. This is easier. Not that. This is easier. But I can't say enough about him. Jalen Milroe, he's a scrambler. I mean, Alabama's gotten away with it years. Before Jalen Hurts was Jalen Hurts, that's who he was. They had several guys that have been in this Alabama system that they just run the football and throw it deep. And this year it caught up with them. And honestly, Texas was in the backfield all night. And they had no fear of Milroe. And honestly, I don't think anybody else should. You know, if you can slow him down, I'd say take your shots. You know, roll the dice and see if he can hit it. But, you know, he had a pretty good 14 of 27. The completion percent is not good at all. 255, two interceptions, 2 touchdowns. Running game, this is unlike Alabama. In a sense, Texas won the line of scrimmage on both ends. Whereas, if I recall correctly, let me look here for you guys. It looked as though, I think Alabama gave up 3 sacks. And I'm going to be honest with you. Texas was in the backfield all night, guys. I mean, there were several times that Milroe spun away from trouble. So, to me, it wasn't a situation as Texas didn't own the line. I felt like they owned it. I really do felt like they owned the line of scrimmage. They had a bunch of guys that really played their butts off on that side of the ball. Jalen Catalon had a great game. He had 7 tackles and a tackle for loss. David Gabenda, he had a great game. He had 6. He's the linebacker number 33. He was in the backfield seemingly all freaking night, the senior. He had 6 tackles and a sack. And Anthony Hill had 6 tackles and a sack and a half. You know, this is a guy that's a true freshman. This is actually pretty scary. Texas got some guys that are going to be coming back even after this season. I mean, you just look down the list. Kitten Crawford, Anthony Hill Jr., as I just alluded to, Jalen Ford had a tackle for loss. Ethan Burke had 4 tackles. 2 of them, the defensive end, Ethan Burke, he was a good player. This guy's just a sophomore. I enjoyed this guy. He had that sack where Milroe thought he was going to run up in the pocket, and he said, no, sir. He just held his guy at bay, that 6'6" frame he's got, and he slid right into the gap where Milroe thought he was fixing to take off at, and he shut that down. But, Yeah, I feel like Texas is a very good football team. They're Sarkisian is looking pretty good. I can't say I'm overly surprised. I just thought Quentin Ewers was going to hold them back. He did for a minute. There were some throws that he missed, and those receivers helped him out. Anybody that wants to sit here and talk Quentin Ewers, they got to talk wide receivers. They have to talk. They have to talk Donald Mitchell and Xavier Worthy. These guys were great. These guys made really good catches for him. So let's not just slaughter Texas, but slay Texas and give them all the love. But Alabama is, we're so used to seeing them do what they do that it's like, Saban's got some things to look at because they're not a national contender, not right now. Not with Jalen Milroy sitting back there, just either throwing bombs or running the ball. He's got to figure out how to set his feet and throw the football, not just awaiting opportunity to throw it deep. But looking over at their sideline, you're looking at Kobe Prentice had 5 catches for 68 yards. Jermaine Burton had the 49-yard bomb for a touchdown. Amari Knee-Black had 2 catches for 45 yards in that score from 39 yards out. And really, you had Isaiah Bond had a 34-yarder that one across the middle. But outside of that, it's like, Tresman Marshall had 10 tackles tonight. Caleb Downs had 10 tackles. And of course you expect that out of Alabama. Their defense is primarily their linebacking core. But Caleb Downs having 10 tackles, he's your defensive back. That's what he's listed as. He plays rover / corner, slot guy, basically, if you will, that new position they're coming out with. Deontay Lawson had 8 tackles. And it's like what you expect from an Alabama Crimson Tide team that's heavily linebacker oriented, if you will. But something I didn't see a lot of penetration, and that's part of what I thought was so key for Texas. When you guys go back and watch the show I did for the program or for the college football Saturday, when I said how Texas can beat Alabama, they controlled the line of scrimmage. That's what I said. They have to control the line of scrimmage. And to me, they did. They did enough to run the football, and they protected Ewers to the point where you don't see Saban do this often, but he dropped back more often than not into coverage as opposed to putting pressure. Because Sarkisian was doing such a good job in the first half setting the tone. Shout out to you, Steve Sarkisian. You did a great job calling the game in the first half. Alabama couldn't just come up there and just tee off because they were getting the ball out quick, and that allowed for Texas to attack them down the field because they were playing back. And see, they weren't playing deep. What happened was, and that's another thing that made Sarkisian so effective tonight. He was running not 1, not 2, but 3 deep routes. He was running guys deep down the field where that defense that Nick Saban likes to run, that cover 2, that Tampa 2, the weak spot is either directly in the middle of the field or at the seams. And so what Sarkisian was doing, he was sending a lot of plays where they would either attack the perimeter and force those safeties outside, or he had a guy that was cutting up the middle and sending another guy on a skinny deep post. And they were leaving guys open. The safeties had to pick. And see, on one of the touchdowns, they ran a quick slant over the middle, and then they ran a skinny post, a deep skinny post. What happened? Threw it over the top. Ewers almost threw it in the wrong spot. He's supposed to throw it to the post, not over here. But before I get out of here, guys, I just wanted to let you guys know that I will be doing a follow-up show here shortly of all the action, updating you guys from all the action that took place today. Keep enjoying that campus gridiron tailgating. And until we meet again, keep on gathering.